Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Camper Report. Today, we have a first-time guest, John Chapman. You can find him, I think it's at John Chapman on your YouTube, and then Twitter, JL_Chapman. Big fan of the show, your show. Thanks for letting me have you on. I mean, he's quick. You're a big 49ers fan. You talk a lot of 49ers. I'm a 49ers fan, so I was stoked to hear when you replied to me on Twitter. I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is great." So, how are
Well,
you
man, I'm
doing
glad to
today? Yeah,
I'm exceptional. Here we are in the off season. The draft and combine are, vastly quickly approaching. And
yeah.
so I love this time of year. And I just want to say thanks, Ben, for reaching out. This is incredible, man. Excited to talk some 49ers and make a new friend, man. So let's jump into it. And again, just want to say thanks for having me on. Absolute pleasure.
Yeah. So obviously the news of Jimmy Garoppolo, there's so many rumors every day. I feel like we hear new rumors, but this one, obviously, the big thing coming into this offseason was, are they going to trade him? Are they going to keep him? And there was a new story now, or like a few days ago, I think. This is it's pretty old, but reacting to the rumors around the league that interest in Jimmy Garoppolo is lukewarm at best. And then there's a second part to this question that I wanted to ask you. And if they don't trade him, what do you suggest they do? Because obviously the 49ers, if they're lukewarm, do you want to cut him? Do you want to keep him for another year? What do you suggest they do um to even this out? So
There's 32 NFL teams, 31 if you don't count the
yeah,
49ers. And so whenever you hear these, gross generalizations like, oh, lukewarm interest. Well, how many teams are you talking to? Because for a trade to take place, you just need one interested trade partner and that's it. Now,
right.
we already know there's probably 5 to 6 teams that are quarterback needy. So it just takes one or two of those guys to, kind of drive up the price. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get traded. And I think that there's going to be a lot more talk, especially up
Right.
until the NFL draft, just about how teams want them or don't want them. But make no mistake, when careers are on the line for coaching staffs and front offices, they
Mhm.
will do whatever it takes to get to the playoffs because you make the playoffs, your job is safe. Jimmy Garoppolo could take a good team to the playoffs. We've seen
Right.
him
Right.
do exactly that. So I don't think, these reports, and again, everybody's trying to go for clicks and whatever else. Jimmy is getting traded. I don't think it even has to resort to, cut or anything along that. Now, it
Right.
might be a Teddy Bridgewater deal where it's like a couple
Mm,
fourths and all that stuff.
yeah.
That's worst case scenario. But I think at the end of the day, he's going to go for a top tier second round pick.
So my question to you is, do you think they settle for less? Again, do you think like if they're lukewarm, the 49ers are obviously saying there was that first round rumor was I don't buy that at all. But do you think like they will settle for like a third round pick or something like that? 2/4, whatever?
If it does something like that, I think there'd be some heavy qualifiers where, like, if he starts 14 plus games, very similar to Carson Wentz, or if he takes your team to the playoffs, gets a
Right.
playoff start, then it would jump up. I think the one area that the 49ers would be willing to take less is to send him to a winning team. Because
Mm,
if the 49ers don't take care of Jimmy, who is a locker room, everybody loves him and he's endeared, you
yeah.
got to take care of your people. Very similar to
Yeah.
DeForest Buckner. People weren't happy when he was traded. I wasn't happy, but you allowed him to pick the team he wanted to go to. You allowed him to pick a team that would pay him. And
Yeah.
so people don't look at the DeForest, at least people in the locker room, do not look at the DeForest Buckner situation as a loss because they took care of their guy. They
Right.
let him go get paid and go to a team he wanted.
Yeah, and I think, the whole run, if you're looking around, like, the whole run, the championship run was a little bit deceiving. And I could understand why teams are not really that interested. A lot of them aren't because smart organizations aren't deceiving because smart organizations are not buying this because the whole championship run, everything else, where we almost made it to the Super Bowl was very deceiving because he really didn't play that good in that stretch. So I
No.
can understand why teams wouldn't be buying this. And again, if I have a question for you, if they cut him, don't they have to like cut him by a certain date, like May 16th or whatever? Otherwise he gets guaranteed money, I think.
Yeah, every single contract is going to be different. But if you're just looking, okay, like if you want to cut them, if you want all of your cap savings, you have to cut them before June 1st.
Okay.
So you've got plenty of time. So you'd have to make it through the combine, which I think is when most of the trade negotiations will take place. You'd have to go through the NFL
Okay.
draft, and then you'd have to go a little
Mhm.
ways longer. Now, again, I keep seeing people saying, hey, you should cut them so that you can get all those cap savings. It'd be $25.5 million cap savings. But understand, you're I just can't see a way he's not traded. But if you
Right.
did cut him, you would get all those savings. That is correct. I just don't see that happening.
I think, if they get a third round pick, and the team offers to pay his whole salary, that I would take that and run.
I would as well.
Even 2 fourth round picks and the whole salary, like maybe I think the only way the 49ers get a second round pick for him is if, they're paying for some of the salary, because I don't know. I mean, I think they're trying to prop him up, but what do you think? I mean, yeah, second round pick is even a little bit of a reach for me. So,
But like here's the thing, like you look at the teams that are picking at the top of the second round. They're
right.
quarterback needy teams,
Right.
right? New York Giants, who are not a winning team, I don't think they're really an option. They're at 36. You've got Denver at 40. That's
Mm.
a perfect fit if they miss out on Russell Wilson. I don't think Rodgers is a
Ooh,
possibility. Deshaun Watson. You've got the Washington Commanders, I
Commanders,
think
yeah.
their name is. They're at 42.
Yeah.
Cleveland at 44 is a possibility that I
That's a
don't think a lot are
sleeper.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, that's a
Because that'd
sleeper.
be a perfect fit.
Yeah, it would be. And again, somebody said this on the Pat McAfee show. It was a guest the other day, and I'm gonna repeat this. If the 49ers keep Jimmy Garoppolo, I think for another year, the 49ers almost have to do Trey Lance right by either cutting or trading Jimmy Garoppolo. Because as long as Jimmy Garoppolo, and a lot of people have said this, but as long as Jimmy Garoppolo is on that team, Trey Lance will never get a fair shot at competing for the starting job. And we all think, oh, yes, he will. No, he won't, because we all know that the whole locker room's for Jimmy Garoppolo. And so you have to do right by your first round quarterback by cutting Jimmy Garoppolo so he can actually have a fair chance to compete.
It's a rough job, the quarterback competition and things along that nature. And so I do think I mean, why would the front office let Jimmy go up there after the game and basically say his farewell to the fans and cry on stage
Mm,
if there's a
yeah.
possibility of him coming back? I mean, the dude was in tears. And
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but like, if he's not going to be traded, he'd be like, hey, man, we'll have to wait and see. I don't think that's the conversation that took place.
Yeah. That's true. So do you have anything else to say on that, or
I want to say, like, I'm the biggest Trey Lance guy out there.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
wanted him so bad. I was banging the drum the entire time. And I'll say this: I'm very proud and happy to have Jimmy Garoppolo as our quarterback in the past. No ill will towards him at all. I
Yeah.
want him to be successful, not against the 49ers. I hope they trade him out of conference. But it very similar to, DeForest Buckner was a different type of fan favorite. But I hope good things for Jimmy and what he's done for this fan base. He's been a
Yeah.
consummate pro the entire time, hasn't thrown anybody under the bus, got us a lot of wins. People forget what it was like before Jimmy. And
Yeah.
so I wish him the best. I really, really do.
Yeah. Real quick here before we move on, do you think the Jimmy G experiment was a success?
Oh, 100%. The
Yeah.
fact that you traded a second, the record that he put up, he got you to 2 NFC championships and 1 Super Bowl, and you're going to trade him again and basically recoup that cost. Now, you might not be able to get the same pick that you gave up for him, but yes, you turned into a winning program in a large part because of Jimmy Garoppolo for a second rounder.
Right.
That is a positive experience.
And that's
Experiment.
one more thing. That's another reason why cutting him, like, they're probably not going to cut him because, it would be admitting your mistakes, but cutting him, you usually don't cut a player when you haven't gotten what you want out of him. I think a Super Bowl, an NFC championship game, 2 winning seasons, that's a second round pick. That's really good. So it's not like they're going to be losing anything by cutting him.
Exactly. And I'll say
So
this too. Let's say no trades come through. You keep him on your roster. And if
Right.
another quarterback goes down during the first 2 months of the season, you could trade him for a haul, similar to Sam Bradford trade and Teddy
Right.
Bridgewater back in the day. Or worst case, you keep him all year, which I don't want to do. But whenever he signs with somebody else, you get a
Yeah.
third round comp pick. He would be the number one compensation pick. So, you're going to get a third round pick for him eventually. You just might have to
Right.
wait an extra year.
Right. Good point.
I don't think that happened, though. He'll be traded.
Yeah, yeah. So, again, moving on, the 49ers free agency, it's coming around the corner. It's only a few weeks away. We just talked about cutting Jimmy Garoppolo, the new year, everything else. The draft is still a little while away, but I wanted to switch things up a little bit. Instead of what position would you want the 49ers to target in the draft? What position do you want them to target in free agency? Um, do you have any particular thing that you want them really to target in free agency?
The problem with free agency right now is it might look kind of sexy, right? You got guys
Yeah,
like Von Miller, Brandon Scherf, Allen Robinson, Chandler
JC
Jones,
Jackson. Yeah.
JC Jackson. He's the hot name, right? A lot of those guys aren't going to be free agents. They're going to be locked up beforehand. Now, JC Jackson has
Mm,
a very strong possibility. He put out there on Twitter, they must not really want me because nobody's reached out at all along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. So JC Jackson would be the blue chip prospect, the big contract, and all those things. That would be wonderful, but I just don't think it's going to happen for the 49ers. You would have to pay top flight money to get him here. Somebody along the lines of, Stephon Gilmore, that is a little bit more likely,
mm,
even though he's longer in the tooth and, north of 30 and all those things. But those are the type of things. I wish we could go after offensive line and shore that up,
right.
but we're going to have to wait and see what happens with Mack. If Alex Mack chooses to retire,
Ooh,
not that it's going
right.
to be, all hands on deck, DEF CON, whatever, but you're going to have some issues and you've got to get that shored up.
Well, and how much do you think Ryan Jensen from the Buccaneers will cost? Do you
Oh,
think
he's
probably a
going to
lot?
cost a lot. He's going to cost at least 10 million a year would be my guess, just off the top of my head.
Right.
He's a hell of a player. Let's see here. If we pull up, what he made last year, he made 10.5 million last year. So it's going to be well north of that with the salary cap expanding and things along that nature. My guess is, man, just, looking at probably 14 to 15 million a year. Can the 49ers
Right.
swing that? If you trade Jimmy Garoppolo, you could. But
Right.
again, are you getting better? Is he a lot better than Alex Mack is? I think that he's much more stout,
Right.
but is that a huge upgrade? I think it's an upgrade,
Mhm.
but salary cap wise, oh man, that's extra 10 mil on top of what you were paying Mac.
Yeah. Well, if he doesn't retire, and again, we have stuff like, guard could be a huge need
Yeah.
next year because you could, Laken Tomlinson could be going.
That
That's
scares me.
big. Yeah. You got Alex Max, but if Alex Mack doesn't retire, I think, I'm all big for the drafting a right tackle. And, have you ever heard of Nicholas Petit Freer from Ohio State?
Yeah.
Look him up. I am big. He's a big player. Would be good in the run game. Very, very athletic. I think, that guy, I think I'm all for us trying to make a run at the four big corners, JC Jackson, Stephon Gilmore, Carlton Davis, one of those 3 or 4 because there's a lot of good free agent corners that you could get. And I'm all for drafting an offensive lineman, even though it's not been our success in the past. I think I don't know. What do you think about that?
We have a lot of bodies in
yeah,
the O-line room, right? Jalen Moore, you went and got him. Jake Brindle, who's our backup center. So if
right.
Mac did retire, that'd probably be the guy right now, who's a restricted free agent this year as well, but he doesn't get to
Mm,
negotiate with other teams. You've got bodies there, but you
right.
don't have studs. I really hope they bring Lakin back. He's my number one priority in
Yeah,
free agency over DJ Jones, who I love as well. But the offensive line, if Trey Lance is a success,
right.
everything else is just details. So what you
Right.
have to do is shore up that old line so he's not getting hit so much, which we saw in the the
Right.
Cardinals game. You got to make sure that's not going to happen. So if you're going to let Lakin walk, if you're going to if Mac is going to retire, you got McGlinchey coming back from injury, which he's got his question marks even when he's healthy. There's a
Yeah.
lot of questions outside of Trent
Mhm.
Williams. And so you've
Yeah.
got to shore that up. I would have no problem if they drafted not one, but 2 offensive linemen and early. You got to keep Trey clean if you want him to be successful in this league.
Right. And so, but do you think the 49ers will make defensive standpoint? Do you think they will make any run at the like one of these three guys, JC Jack, well, any of those guys really, because there's tons of good corners in this free agency.
I do not see the 49ers going after top tier paid players. One,
Yeah.
because the salary cap, they don't have that much room. They could restructure a lot and get room. There's no doubt about it. But with this team, with where it is now, usually you have new coaches and teams that are trying to get out of the bottom. They spend on the top players. Once the 49ers are where they are, because the financial priority is Deebo Samuel. He will get paid.
Right. And Nick Bosa. Yeah.
When locker rooms and front offices attribute top tier money to people from outside the building, that is a problem. That's not what the 49ers are going to do. I think you'll get kind of the second and third tier free agents. That's what you will bring in, and you pay to take care of your own. Debo's going to get paid, and deservedly so. He's should have got an MVP vote. Good gosh, he was incredible last year.
So do you think the 49ers will be able to retain, going to the defensive line real quick? I mean, do you think they'll be able to retain both DJ Jones and Arden Key? I mean, I think my argument with Arden Key is you can get any defensive end off the street, and I think we could really run with it. But DJ Jones, I think, is more important because he was a main guy he didn't get injured last year. He was a good run game stopper. I think Arden Key is more replaceable. And Arden Key, I mean, I think he's going to get a bigger check than people realize. That could be an understatement. Yeah. So what do you think on that real quick?
There's a big difference between edge and DTs, okay? And it's almost like a 50% off, like bargain bin shopping whenever you're looking at defensive tackles. They still get paid, and, they're one of the top 5 paid positions in the NFL. But edge is a whole nother animal. So I do agree with you. I love Arden Key. He's my number 3 priority free agent, DJ Jones being 2. And I think Charles Omenihu is kind of the guy that they want to be that position. They have him on a cheap deal still, rookie contract. So I think you do whatever you can to get DJ Jones, and you make a qualifying offer to Arden Key, and you say, look, you might be able to get $9 million a year out on the free agent. That's awesome. We know you're successful here, and we want to bring you back on a 2-year, $14 million deal. So we're going to ask you to take a hometown discount. But remember, we believed in you when nobody else did, and you will have success with us. We can make it incentive-based if you want to get up there. But that's kind of how John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have done business with guys in-house. Hey, this is what we'll give you. If you can't, go ahead. Emmanuel Sanders, same thing. We can pay you this. Saints are going to pay you more. All right, enjoy the Saints. Kendrick Bourne, go down the line. We'll offer you a deal, but we're not paying top price. We just can't do it.
Yeah, and I think Arden Key was a part of what the 49ers did last year. He gave him more flexibility. He was a great 1-2 punch to Nick Bosa because, again, we saw when Nick Bosa, this edge rush was so good last year. It kind of returned. It was better almost than the 2019, kind of thing. And you had better corners in 2019. So that's going to be key. But again, like I said, I think Arden Key, maybe it's kind of like one of those stories where he goes to another team and he doesn't do as good. So it could just be product of the system. We'll just have to find out. I think DJ Jones, though, is the key part just because, I mean, we could see he was key last year.
Yeah. So. And I think we saw this exact same storyline play out with Kerry Hyder. You remember he came in, we got him on a cheap deal and prove it deal. He came out balled out and we got him paid somewhere else. Sucks that it was with Seattle. But I think that's kind of the MO. Look, we'll pay you this, but if you want to go make your money, you're going to have to go elsewhere. And then we get the comp pick for it. Because again, we're not going big on free agency. And so we will, again, this will be our 4th year in a row that we are getting compensation picks because we're losing more talent than we're bringing in free agency wise. And that's okay. Building through the draft.
Yeah, that's key. And it's getting your team younger because I think we were a pretty old team last year.
We were, but it's a couple positions that are key, especially on that offensive line with Trent Williams and Alex Mack, very old guys there. And then secondary, Jimmy Ward. You've got some elderly guys, and I mean guys like Dante Johnson. You've got a lot of old reserves, which is not normal for most teams.
So have you heard of this guy? I haven't. Marcus Jones. I mean, I haven't really dove that deep into very many prospects yet, but Marcus Jones from Houston. Can you tell us anything about him?
Man, he's a fun kid. And,
What position,
probably
by the way?
he plays cornerback and
Okay.
he's an undersized kind of 5'8" guy. So automatically he's going to be a slot corner. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody's going to put him outside, and that's fine because with Kwan Williams, again, another priority free agent, do you bring him back on a cheap deal? What's that look like?
Right.
You could use slot help, but probably one of the reasons why he's so popular is his kick return ability. The dude's just an electrifying athlete who
Ooh,
happens to
okay.
play corner, and very, very physical, but like he is awesome. The dude's one of the best jumpers and explosive athletes, maybe in the combine. So, like, whenever you're watching the combine, pay
Okay.
attention to this dude's, what's it called? His jumping ability, not only the vertical, but also the flat foot jump, which is going to be huge. That's usually what measures explosiveness, and this kid's going to have it in spades. I want to see him dunk a basketball. I bet this dude could do some tricks, man. He's
Yeah.
explosive.
Okay. Well, it's a good person to look out for. So, next topic we have, and this one's something that, will it be easy? The 49ers have lost so many coaches this year. And
Yeah.
again, that could be huge. I mean, we don't really know how big it is, but they've lost a lot of coaches. I think tight end coach, they lost their offensive line coach. They lost trying to think.
Offensive coordinator, special teams
Oh, yeah,
coordinator,
right. Mike McDaniel's the big one. Yep.
and
Special
their
teams.
quarterback coach also just left for Kentucky. I'll say this: losing coaches is an issue
Yeah.
when you're firing them. Look at the Seattle Seahawks, right? They're losing coaches because they're not good and they're not
Yeah.
developing. We are losing coaches, the 49ers, I say we. The 49ers are losing coaches because of how developed and how talented they are,
Mm,
and everybody wants a piece of that Shanahan coaching tree and concepts. That's a
yeah.
little bit more positive. Are there issues whenever you have that, turnover? 100%. But at the top, it stays clear. Still got John Lynch, still got
Right.
Shanahan, still got D'Amico, and not in that order. Kyle Shanahan's number one. Sorry, I started with John Lynch, but
Yeah.
you've got those guys at the top. And remember, we lost Saleh, and everybody's like, oh man, D'Amico's never done it before. How's it going to do? I would argue D'Amico was head and shoulders above what Robert Saleh did in his first 2 years. Now, maybe in Robert Saleh's last year before he got hired as the Jets coach, I think that was his best coaching job. But D'Amico, he started off on fire.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, quarterbacks coach, I'm not as worried about them. A lot of people have been talking about the guy who could replace I think it's Rich Gangarello the most. I'm quickly looking up his name right
They're
here.
probably putting John Beck out there, the
Beck.
quarterback
There we
coach
go.
that's
Yep.
been,
Beck.
because whenever, if you go back to the Trey Lance saga,
Beck.
once
Yeah.
they traded up, they called John Beck and they called Trey Lance's agent and said, we want you to go work with him. That's what we want you to
Right.
do. And so, yeah, John Beck, it would be a perfect thing, but John Beck's kind of doing his own thing. I'm not sure this is
Yeah.
what he would want to do, but that would be ideal. I'd be very, very happy with that. I
Yeah.
think that
And
probably one real quick name I'll throw out there is Bobby Slowick. I think that he's kind of the dark horse
ooh.
in-house person that could be promoted to quarterbacks coach, or offensive running game coordinator or passing game coordinator. He's getting a promotion. Slowick will be promoted to one of those vacant spots. I'll tell you that for sure.
That name rings a bell. Didn't he used to play in the
Yes, he
NFL?
did, and his
Yeah.
brother did too, and his brother coaches as well. I think
Yeah.
his dad coached as well. Yeah, it's a football family.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, I don't know, I think, Rich Gangarello, I didn't never really liked him. I think he was Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
I think this is a new era, and it's nice. I mean, the 49ers are starting over with Anthony Lynn, and they're kind of, restructuring their team a little bit. Obviously, guys have left, but the Anthony Lynn hiring was really good. I love that one. And then, I think the 49ers, they always, like, again, we were always like last year when D'Amico Ryans was taking over, we were like, oh no. Well, there was really not a skipped step between D'Amico Ryans and Robert Saleh. So I think we'll be fine. I think the way
Mhm.
that we develop all of these coaches and everything else, I think they're all they're ready for the task. And that's why we promote from within a lot, because you'll get the people that and that you've developed for a few years. So I think the 49ers will be all right. But the thing that I'm worried about is, what if they lose too many coaches, I mean,
It's a blessing and a curse. You know, you hope that you develop talent, and the good thing is the Shanahan loyalty program, which I always joke about. If you ever coach with Shanahan, he takes care of you. If you ever played for Shanahan, he takes care of you. That dude has to have the
Yeah.
longest Christmas card list in the world because he gets people paid. Being a part of that system, if you're attached to it, you get paid.
Yeah. Well, one quick topic before we go. I wanted to know because when did you start doing this whole like podcast and I think you've been on the radio or you are on the radio. So when did this all start right before we go?
Yeah, the first time I started recording was back in 2017. And I was a high school football coach in Texas, one of the largest programs in the country, and had to get out of coaching, had some family issues, whatever. We adopted some boys, and they got a little bit of trouble, had to spend some more time at home. So I kind of pulled out of the coaching sector, and I was
Okay.
like, I got to talk football. And so then I started just talking some 49ers, and here we are. You know, what's this going on? Concluded year 5, moving on to year 6. And it's blown up and it's been great. And I'll say
Dang.
this, Ben, you're good at what you do, man, and stick with it because I was an old man when I got started. Man, you've got all the resources. I love the production. I love everything that you're bringing to this. So I'm super excited for the future, not of just of the 49ers, but the content that is out there. 49ers fans are
Yes.
spoiled. And shoot, man, you're the Bobby Slowick of the 49ers podcast world, man. So just stick with it, man, because you're going to get whatever you want out of this.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, it's always encouraging when people that I've been watching for a few years now, will encourage me and everything else. So thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been John Chapman. Thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed it. And I mean, yeah, this was a lot of fun. Just really getting to know you a little bit more. And it was exciting when I got to hear that I would be able to get you on. So.
Dude, I appreciate it. And man, anything you need, please don't hesitate to reach out. And it's always good to make new friends. So thank you, Ben, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. Absolute pleasure being on here today.
Yeah, well, thank you everyone for watching. We'll probably be back tomorrow night. Hey, real quick, I hadn't gone on for like almost 2 weeks, but I mean, news is breaking and free agency is coming, so there will be more news coming, more shows coming because it's gonna start heating up in the next few weeks. So thank you everyone for watching. This has been John Chapman. We'll see you guys again later.